breakout. I got a couple people off today, so I got to do a couple extra things. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Today is December 28th. My name is Patrick Hawe. I'm an associated member of T3 Trading Group, which is a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA SIPC. All trades placed by myself, Patrick, are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition if you are watching this video. Please pause the video and take a moment to read this disclosure. Thank you. And position disclosure, no new positions, still on Dropbox, MoneyGram, WeWork, and Seago. Okay, let's do it. So markets got pretty much what we were expecting today, which was a cool off day. So after, this morning, basically coming into yesterday, we were a little bit cautious because we had such a big move last week in such a short period of time. That being said, yesterday was kind of like a day one breakout day where S&P got to new all-time highs and the Qs broke over this 400 level. That's been a pretty big level here. So day one yesterday, but that being said, we were a little bit overcooked just after yesterday's big move, which followed last week's move. So this morning I shared one short-term sentiment was overcooked again. So coming into this kind of like sell zone area, and that did not include the gap up from this morning. So that helped a little bit. And then this bigger like medium term picture sentiment is actually getting close to a sell signal as well. So this morning we were pretty confident that, we needed to do some cooling off and to definitely be cautious coming in looking for longs correlated to the market. And today's candle is pretty picture perfect for a nice cooling off day for the market. Just because we get extended again doesn't mean we have to drop back to the daily ADMA. If anything, it's probably better for us to have honestly a couple days like this. We could be in for another day like this tomorrow for sure, but just a couple days for our moving averages to catch up here, like these Qs. I would definitely prefer the ADMA to catch up to this low, the breakout day low, and then ultimately 400. So this morning, we were basically discussing just kind of like Q shorts for gap fill ideas and stuff like that, and then just kind of being patient for like a less is more day. And if they sweep anything unusual or anything like that, take a look out for that. But otherwise, the markets still look great after today. Qs, which have been honestly the SPY, I guess the SPY has been relatively strong. As I was going to say, the Qs have been relatively strong just because of big tech, but honestly, based on the chart, SPY has been the strongest, and I believe the Dow made an all-time high today, 260, 365. Now, that looks like the Dow just barely missed an all-time high, but the Dow and the SPY has been really strong, and then Qs are not quite at all-time high, but definitely getting there, again with a bit of a breakout yesterday. And then IWM has been the weakest for sure. So I was harping on it yesterday, I was harping on it this morning, I'll harp on it again. Relative strength and relative weakness is so important to pay attention to, especially in this market. It seems more than ever. Don't try to short relatively strong names, don't try to buy relatively weak names. It's too hard in this environment. So that being said, the best one today to short was probably the IWM. Let's take a look at the intraday action, because it wasn't just a pure sell-off either. We actually did get bid up off the open. And I remember looking at SPY in the morning here and just thinking to myself, oh man, like if we're really about to have another day like this, all day again today, with short-term tactical sentiment being overcooked and getting a gap up, and we're gonna melt up again today, like that's gonna start to get really crazy. And then we kind of just broke down a little bit and I shouldn't even say broke down, we just rolled over, and pretty much again same thing. Once you get into the afternoon here, I guess we had this like one final little breakdown, and then it's just sideways the second half of the day. just absolutely nothing going on here. So again, overall, definitely a healthy cool off day in which we were expecting. It's good to, kind of be able to expect, okay, today's the day to step on the gas. Okay, today's a day to look for a reversal because we're extended to the downside. And okay, today's a day to probably do less because we're a bit overcooked. And again, just because we're overcooked doesn't mean we need to just snap right back down. We're overcooked, but things overall are really strong and looking really good. These indices all look pretty solid. With the IWM looking the worst, but the IWM had a bottoming candle last week. IWM's weekly candle. This is a really, really solid bottoming candle for the IWM. So yeah, and I mentioned it a little bit this morning too. Just the art of shorting overcooked markets is a lot different and a lot harder than buying, I guess I should say overcooked to the upside, than buying like extended downside markets, because extended downside markets usually tend to snap back up a lot better, especially obviously in this bull market. It's, that's not just a universal thing, but in this overall bull market, by the dip market that we've been in for so long, we usually tend to snap back way better when we're cooked to the downside versus the upside. You don't always just snap right back down. You kind of just cool off for a couple days. I mean, look at this run here, right? Definitely overcooked and extended here, but you end up kind of just getting like 4 days of chop, really. Choppy day here, another up day, and then 2 down days, but barely down days. That's kind of what the cool off looks like, really. Maybe you get your move to the 80 MA, and that's it. So that's kind of what I'm expecting here. And then, just going into tomorrow, I guess same thing. We'll see how they gap us. I doubt they gap us big anyway, unless some type of news comes out, just because there's no real reason to. But yeah, I mean, we're holding up well, and we probably, again, we cooled off well today. We'll see how much we cooled off based on like short-term sentiment and stuff like that, but we probably need a couple more days of this. Because again, we are pretty extended here. Like looking back here, today's candle looks similar to this candle, and what happens? You end up getting a couple more days before, obviously we ended up rolling over here, but might need a couple more days of cooling for these moving averages to catch up before we really get that push. And again, 470 to 450, we have a measured move to 490. We could definitely get there quicker than I would expect. That definitely tends to happen in this market. But yeah, so that's the day today overall. I don't think there was anything too special that came out today. I'm just looking back from this morning. I know like DraftKings broke down 28. Again, relative strength, relative weakness, which we talked about yesterday afternoon and this morning. So DraftKings, although 28 has been a great level for it, it's relative anything. I basically said yesterday, anything that was weak yesterday, you probably shouldn't even be touching. And anything that was strong yesterday, that's where you want to be looking. So yesterday we were very, very strong across the board. Anything that performed poorly yesterday, well, let's see. DraftKings performed poorly yesterday, broke down 28 today. Fubo performed poorly yesterday, tried to bounce this morning, but ultimately failed and broke down today. Peloton performed poorly yesterday, poorly today. PayPal performed not so great yesterday, definitely should have been better, poor today. So again, this theme of relative strength and relative weakness in this market is so important. Don't just be trying to pick bottoms in these without any type of signal, and whether that signal is real capitulation, which these things definitely are not showing, it's just a very slow bleed lower, or we get some like real nice option flow in them or something like that. That could be something, and we've seen that too. We've seen it in Fubo a couple days. Today Fubo got swept right around in this candle. I remember looking and being able to buy, maybe it was over here, I think I was able to buy mid to lower 40s, and it gave a little bit of a move off that sweep, but ultimately just a bleed lower. So if you like any of these names that are totally trading like garbage and are super beaten up, I would probably just wait. You really, again, just relative strength, relative weakness. You really don't want to be stepping in front of this freight train of money that seems to be going one way with certain things and the complete opposite way with other things. So I think that's all I really have to talk about, which again isn't too much, but it was definitely a less is more day, and we were expecting that. And I think we can probably look to expect that tomorrow. I think we need at least one more day of cooling. One more day will probably be enough to get these moving averages above this day's low, which yesterday, again, I said, although it's like a day 4, day 5 up, we broke out of certain levels, so you could almost treat it as a day 1. So, treat it as a day 1, treat it as like your flagpole in a way. We really want these moving averages to catch up above these lows from this day. For anything really, what does IWM look like? Yeah, even for IWM, right? Like, I know I don't love a moving average crossover per se, but it's definitely something to pay attention to. You can see here these moving at, tried to cross up over here, but failed really fast, couldn't quite go. And then finally, your 8's above the 21, your 21 and 8 are sloped up, and you're able to start to go. So here we go, potential double bottom on the IWM. The weekly chart's trying to confirm it. Let's see if this low can hold. This 80 MA can catch up, and things can start to push. Just might need another day or two. So yeah, trying to think if there's anything else to mention, but I don't think I have anything else to mention really. That's kind of what I'm expecting. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, thoughts, concerns, complaints, definitely feel free to share them now. I know it definitely wasn't necessarily an easy day, but hopefully it wasn't a hard day either. Hopefully you guys kind of just did, less is more. So yeah, let's see what you guys are saying. I tried to pick a top in Apple, no fun. Yeah, we discussed that, Jared. And hopefully what I was saying made sense about trading Apple. In this 5-minute extension. Let's see. Any thoughts on DNUT? Fundamentally, the company is improving, but they still reported a loss. Anything that is not making money. Oh wow, this DNUT's actually. This chart looks a lot better than I was expecting it to when I typed it up. I was gonna say this market's definitely been punishing companies that don't make money. So I don't like to hear that they've still lost money, but if they are improving, which I do remember reading stuff about that, I definitely don't know too much about the fundamentals behind this Krispy Kreme, right? Yeah. If their fundamentals are improving, that's great. And this chart doesn't look bad either. I was expecting this chart to look like this. I wasn't expecting this nice rebound, which has been happening over the last couple months. Honestly, DNUT's been outperforming the market for the last 2 months, really. So what's your question? Any thoughts on it? I think the chart looks great. Making higher highs and higher lows. Moving averages are, your shorter moving averages are above your longer ones. They're all sloped up. I think this looks great. Looks like a thinner name. I can kind of tell by all the tails, like a lot of tails in each direction. 16 was a big level that it cleared. 16, like 50s it cleared. 17 it cleared. I guess 1750 is what you want to watch now. All the way, even like from back here, this 1750. There's a bit of history there, which it cleared and closed over today. I mean, this DNUT looks really good. If you're not in it already, careful coming in and buying it tomorrow. Even tomorrow, if it dips down to 1750, your daily 80 MA is a little bit low. I want this daily 80 MA to catch up to 17. But if you like it, you can try to enter either at 1750 or at 17 if it gives you the chance over the next couple days. But yeah, the DNUT looks pretty good. That's what you want to see. I think it looks pretty good. Back below 17, it shouldn't go back below 17 if this is going to keep trending and going the way it's going. So that's DNUT. Blink looks pretty bad. I feel like we looked at this yesterday. I mean, there's a lot of charts that look the same. Blink inside day and down. Moving averages are sloping down. Um, I don't know. This looks like a short. This doesn't look good at all. I guess you got this. What is this? 25, 26. You got this 26 level, right? So this 26 level is definitely important. 26, I don't know. 26 looks like the last line of defense for this thing. If this blink loses 26, then I don't even know. Like you're going down to 20 probably. And it's trending down. Its moving averages are sloped down. It's below its 80 May. You got 26 for blink, and otherwise this looks pretty bad. That's my thoughts on blink. Yeah, apps failed tremendously, and I remember, I forget the exact news. Was it like a Google partnership or something? The news seemed pretty big to me. But clearly, the big people with the big money thought differently. So they sold this news on APPS right away, right off the open, big volume. That's not what you want to see. If you're, again, like price action is very telling. You just kind of like trying to think and analyze the psychology behind what's going on with the price action that you're watching live in real time. You definitely get better with it over time with experience and everything like that. But like, just think about it simply. Apps had great news. It's getting bid up pre-market, which, and this is a good example that pre-market volume doesn't really always matter, because something can do 100,000 shares in 30 minutes pre-market and then do twice that volume in the actual first 5 minutes of the day. So something can get bid up easily in a thin, illiquid pre-market, and then once the actual market's open, that's when the real money shifts around. So just thinking about it from like a simple, simplistic view, if this thing has good news and the news is good and investors like it and are going to be buying the name because the news is so good, I mean, I get if this opens and shakes around and comes down a little bit and the ADMA, it takes 20-30 minutes for the 5-minute ADMA to catch up, and then it goes, that's great. But on good news, this shouldn't get sold so hard. I mean, this got sold straight down into the 5-minute ADMA. And even still, it still did give a bounce, which, that's typically what you see, kind of this. I was talking about like the cupping action earlier this morning. It did give a little bit of a bounce off the 5-minute ADMA. But overall, it shouldn't, like, that news is really good. It gets bid up pre-market pretty heavily. So even just this pre-market, it should probably hold like the low of this flag, and at worst case, it should probably hold like this area where it broke out of pre-market. If the news is so good, people, big money investors shouldn't be selling it so hard, so aggressively. So that's kind of like your warning sign early on for APPS. That being said, you did get a bit of a bounce off the 5-minute ADMA, but once that broke back down, this thing was shot. So yeah, that's really ugly. I'm not sure why they didn't like the news, but this thing's kind of in the penalty box until they negate this candle. APPS. Pat's thoughts on what happened to APPS? Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know why they sold it off so hard. I guess the news just wasn't that important. I don't know. Because they sold it off hard and they didn't buy it back up either, as if like, they sold it off hard and then big money saw it as an opportunity to scoop some up, and this tails up. They buy it up and this tails up and this closes somewhere around here today. That's a different story. but they sold it off hard and did not buy it up at all. I honestly don't know why, but price action's the price action. It's not good, and I would not come in tomorrow and try to buy this thinking they're going to negate this, candle today, tomorrow. Yeah, it's ugly. What signs are you looking for as signals for capitulation or a bottom for some of these super beaten up stocks besides a ton of option flow? I mean, either option flow or real capitulation. Like, this is a very slow, grindy trend. And usually you can draw, like Lightspeed doesn't really have a way to draw curved lines. You can only draw trend lines, straight lines. I think. What the hell's in the clips? I guess I can draw an oval. Great. But for the most part, I can't really draw like a parabolic line, but you can usually kind of just envision it and draw it with your mouse. So like stocks like this usually either bottom through a capitulatory bottom extension, they puke it out, and you can see how this, like, just picture this curve. It's kind of, it's not just a perfect angle. There's a bit of a slope that's starting to increase. And then, maybe this pukes out straight down into, I don't know, it's at 35 now, so maybe into 32, 31, 30, I don't know, 25. Like, I don't even know the exact level, because clearly, the levels aren't really that important in this anymore. 30 is a pretty big level, right? But so even like you see how this is kind of getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and it might puke out. So either like real extension, like where it is, it's just riding this moving average. I want to see in 2 days, in 2 days, I want to see this thing below 90. Below 30, with volume, above 40 million that day or something like that. Like big volume, going from a grind to just like a puke capitulatory parabolic lower, something like that. That's one way that stocks bottom. Or they base out and they curl up, like I think that's what Bed Bath & Beyond did after. Yeah, right? Like this grinded down, but instead it poked up and had a day one, and then, choppy here, but then really kind of broke out this day, and the base kind of curls up. You definitely don't always get a move like this after, but something like that. So yeah, so it's not necessarily going to be option flow, but it's either going to be option flow, or they're going to puke these things out. Like even here, look how DraftKings grinds down, and then they puke it out, and then that's when you actually get a decent bounce back, right? Like this is not a bottoming candle. It's not really that extended. You get kind of like a sideways move here, but it's like grind down, and then they puke it out, and volume picks up, and it gets, more extended than it has been in this whole grind down. So something like that, or option flow, or a base that eventually curves and breaks higher. Like, I don't know. I can't really find one right now, but I hope you get the idea. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, either like a real violent capitulatory move, or a curling up base, or like real option flow. Hey Pat, I have ATVI from the break of 60, and just wondering with Derek's rules where I can move my stop to. Target is 70. Well done, Matt. Very well done. Very well done. So definitely not easy to find a good stop here, because it's not making higher highs and higher lows. It's just, well, it is. It's just making higher highs. If you, okay, so your target's 70 and your price is 60. So you have to ask yourself what you're willing to give back to get that target reward. And that's kind of how you try to find your outs in these scenarios. So like if your target's 70 and it's at, so let's just call it mid 66s right now, you're looking for 3.5 points of reward. How much do you want to give back to get that extra 3.5 points of reward? Like how much of your reward that you have already do you want to give back? You know, you don't want your out, you don't want to just leave your original out at 60. You don't want to risk 6.5 points to make 3.5 points. That doesn't make any sense. So do you want to risk a full 3.5 to make that 3.5? Do you want to risk a little bit less? That's probably a question only you can answer. Based on the chart, you could either trail bar for bar, which it's not that I don't recommend people doing that. It's just that you are guaranteed to get stopped out at some point. You're guaranteed to get stopped out because ultimately when you make a higher high and a higher low in like a real trend, you get bars that break prior bars lows. That just happens. So you could either trail bar for bar and use today's low or yesterday's low as your out, and again you're probably gonna get stopped out. The only other thing I think you could really try to use would be this 64 is a bit of a level that it cleared, and now your ADMA is catching up and probably going to be above that tomorrow. So you could use 64. That's the only other really level I mentioned that I like, because even using 64, you're risking 2.5 points to make 3.5 points. That's not too terrible, and if you lose that 2.5 points, you're still obviously going to have a win there. But other than that, it's up to you, just how much, and if you use today's low and you only want to risk a point to make that extra, then I wouldn't blame you either, just because this is getting a little bit exhausted. This certainly won't last forever. So yeah, just ask yourself what you want, what you can picture giving back in order to make that, to get that 70 target. And then if you end up giving back that, make sure that you're not going to be mad that you gave back too much, and that you're going to pat yourself on the back and do a good job either way. So yeah, hope that helps, Matt. And good job with this name. I know you've been talking about this for a while. With respect to 2021 tax loss selling, which is the last trading day to sell regular way and still get the benefit? Honestly, Rich, I remember talking about this in years past because I don't really pay too much attention to it. I'm honestly not 100% sure if you can sell on the last day or if you have to sell 3 days before the last day because it's T+2 settlement and it has to be settled. I'm not 100% sure how that works. So maybe someone knows better than me, but if I had to guess, it's probably what I think a couple people are saying tomorrow because it's T+2 settlement. So yeah. Let's see if I have any YouTube questions. I'm seeing someone on YouTube saying I have low volume. Can you guys hear me okay? It might just be the guy on YouTube. Okay, cool. I feel like I've heard that before with YouTube, that the YouTube volume has been a little bit off. I don't know if it's me or what, so sorry about that. I will try to fix that for tomorrow. Interesting. I'll hit someone up about that. Sorry about that. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, APPS. I remember that sweep coming in. That's the only sweep we got. Yeah, that came pretty much right off the bounce on the 5-minute. I do remember that coming in. It was the only sweep we got. Great spot. Price had caught up to 80 MA and it puked, and then seemed like the puke it had was over. Yeah, so again, pick your spots. You should get a bounce here. You did get a bounce here, but in relative context, with that good news, they shouldn't be selling it so hard, so aggressively if the news is good and gonna take this stock higher, you know? So just try and think about things like that. Don't overthink it. Don't look at a 1 minute chart and overthink things, but try to think about things in context like that. Thanks. Yeah, people are saying tomorrow. So what's tomorrow? The 20? Yeah, 29th. That makes sense. Always good. Thanks, Brent. I appreciate that. Thoughts on airlines? They look like double bottoms on the dailies, but with Omni, is it still risky? I mean, with Omnis, it's still risky. It seems like Omicron's really not getting as many people sick per se, but you never know. You never know how things develop. But I agree with you that these airlines do look like they are or have double bottomed on the daily. I guess we can just take a look at the ETF. So similar last week here, and I'm sure most airlines are going to look like that. Yeah. Similar to IWM here on your weekly candle, this is a bottoming candle. And again, you got like your potential double bottom on the daily with last week's. Your weekly candles are pretty solid. I would definitely argue that that's a bottoming candle there. So don't worry about the worries. Just, focus on the price action and tune all the other noise out or whatever, whatever they say. Price action looks good, double bottom on the daily, hitting some resistance. So it makes sense that they're taking a little bit of a pause. But I think they look really good, and the price action is telling you that they're not, whatever the big money in these names are, they're not really too worried about Omicron. So just let these charts develop. Again, nice looking double bottom on the daily. They look pretty good. They should not get back below these moving averages on the daily. This 8 is sloped up. It's trying to cross up here on Jets. I'm sure a lot of them look fairly similar to that. Yeah, they do. So just whatever, for Jets, for example, it's 21 here. Whatever level this is in whatever airline that you like, we really shouldn't get back below here. I guess technically you should be giving it to the low of this candle, but I would argue that these should, if they're going to go, they should start to go there. Nice day, a couple choppy days here to let the ADMA catch up. Now the ADMA has caught up. They've done their job cooling. Let's see them go. Should not be getting back below like whatever level here. So like for Jets, it's 21. For UAL, like 43. So yeah, I think the airlines look pretty good. I mean, similar to IWM, overall, it's a relatively weaker sector. And there's definitely a lot of resistance that they're going to come into eventually. It's going to be probably a slow, choppy, grindy ride up. But I think the airlines look okay. Mark-to-market accounting. CBX maybe for Thursday. What's today? Tuesday? So tomorrow's Wednesday. What does USO look like? So oil looks a lot better, right? Oil, and this is probably helping the IWM as well. Kind of like a sloppy-ish double bottom, but higher low and now higher highs in oil. So oil looks pretty good. So Chevron here. Chevron looks great. Not all-time highs, but Chevron looks great. I see what you mean for saying Thursday, just a little bit extended here. This 118, definitely a bit of a level, right? That it's dealt with and struggled with a little bit, and now clearing above it. So 118 is your level for Chevron. So yeah, maybe another cooling off rest day. Let this ADMA get a bit closer to 118. And then this looks good versus 118. Chevron looks really, really good. Really good. What is like yeah, some of these are starting to look better too. But there's been a couple like this DVN that has been getting swept up. There's been a couple energy names that are definitely rocking and rolling a bit better than others. Chevron looks really good though. I like the look of this. Thoughts on Lucid? Lucid has been trading poorly despite Tesla's strength. What did Rivian do today? Yeah, just a rest day for Rivian after yesterday. Lucid. Lucid's making a wedge here. Looks like it could go kind of a picture perfect wedge. That's why I drew that. It could go either way here. If I had to pick which way it's going to go, I would probably guess down because it's trending lower. It hasn't really been able to break up well. And it's not trading. I don't think it ever, okay, maybe not ever, but it doesn't trade too much with Tesla, I don't think. I've found in the past. Just like, I don't really think Neo trades with Tesla either. People like to say, look at them together. I don't think Tesla and Neo trade together. I don't think really Lucid and Tesla trade too much together either. And that's certainly been the case. Just look at these past couple weeks in Lucid versus Tesla, right? So Lucid looks like it can go either way here. 36 is your big level that it's holding. So, this low is 35.80. This low is 35.53. So it's tailed below 36, but gets bought right back up, back over 36. But now you have an inside day today that was weak, closed on the lows below the 80 MA. The 80 MA is trending lower, sloped lower. 8's below the 21. It looks like it's calling for lower, but there is a chance that 36 holds. So if you like it, 36 needs to hold, and hopefully this wedge breaks up for you. Otherwise, this looks like it's going to break this wedge down. And if that's the case, this wedge goes from 36 to 42. So that's what, a $6 move. So you got a measured move down to 30 if this wedge breaks down. That's Lucid. Maybe a short tomorrow, I'm saying. Yeah, Justin. If 36 breaks, looks good. Or actually inside day, even better. You could try and cheat on 36 and just short the inside day and down. Don't be super, again, 36 is holding. So you might, it could break the inside day and down and then bounce off 36. That could happen, but again, if I had to pick down or up, I would probably pick down on this. So yeah, I like the idea, Justin. Mark to market accounting. Yes, I remember from my accounting classes in college. Good times. Thanks for the information, Popeye. KO looks like can gap and run. Coke, yeah, staples have been on fire, right? What about utilities? Yeah, pretty good too. And this is still, it's kind of more flight to safety stuff like Staples and Apple. I guess the semi's not quite so much there. But Staples is definitely a flight to safety. And some of these Dow, I mentioned like the Dow has been really strong. Boeing was really strong today. Disney was really strong today. Coca-Cola has been on fire and looks great. So let's see what you're saying. KO looks like it can gap and run tomorrow. It closed higher than the previous few days' tails. Definitely weekly hitting resistance though. What are your thoughts? Inside week and up. This is obviously a very, very slow name, dividend stock. I think Coke looks really good. It's definitely a buy and hold name. This is definitely not a momentum name.
But inside week and up looks great. ADMA on the weekly caught up to this low. Looks great. Daily chart here.
Like you mentioned, close higher than previous day's tails. Definitely weekly.
I mean, is this weekly resistance? This isn't even really... I wouldn't even call this weekly resistance. I mean, you got all-time high at 60, but that's it, really. I don't know. I mean, you got a day 2 up, so day 3 tomorrow. I wouldn't look to buy Coke tomorrow, but Coke looks really good. I like that the ADMA has caught up to this 58 level. Let's let the ADMA catch up to 58.50. And then maybe you can play versus 58.50. Maybe that sets up for you, but Coke looks really good. If you're in Coke, I would keep holding. PG no good? Oh, I was going to say I would be surprised if PG is not performing well, but PG's on fire.
Yeah, these staples have been on fire.
XLP, which is, again, a safety trade.
They're hiding out there. That's where people are hiding their money. And it's interesting, right? Like, markets at all-time highs, but people are hiding their money in safety plays. There's no speculation. There's no speculative fever out there. It's an interesting market for sure. So with tomorrow being the last regular way T+2 tax loss selling day, then we should anticipate a rally in those beaten up. I mean, I don't know, Rich. It's hard to say because we've been saying we should anticipate a rally in those names because of reason 1, 2, 3. I feel like for the past week or two now. So maybe, maybe that's all I'll say.
If it says,
I don't think it's going to be as simple as, okay, today's the very last day for tax loss selling, so now the bounce is going to come. I don't know. It's hard. I think these bounces we were kind of expecting them to come already. So maybe. I don't know.
EXP, yeah, this EXPE caught some really big sweeps these 2 days. I don't know if anyone remembers those. I certainly do. And great follow through. Expedia looks great. What does Trip look like? Trip's looking better too. Trying to bottom out. Probably having some trouble here.
The Trip's looking a bit better too.
But yeah, this Expedia looks great. Inside day today. Probably needs another day for this ADMA to catch up to this low. But Expedia looks pretty good. Yeah.
And, similar to airlines,
the big money's saying it's not really too worried about Omicron with these airlines and stuff like that.
PG, CL got swept the other day, I think last week.
Yeah, solid. This is beautiful. That's like so beautiful. Gets too extended, comes back down. Nice little scoop. And back up.
Yeah, real solid. Yeah, Gabriel, there's not really a bounce even to trust in the speculative stuff. And I always just these have been 4 I've been kind of watching is Fubo, Peloton, DraftKings, and PayPal, just because they all kind of seem to be trading in a basket together. Let's see if I missed any questions anywhere else. No, looks like I got through everything. Anyone have any other questions or thoughts or anything like that? Otherwise, it's about 5 o'clock, so I'll wrap things up. But yeah, market pretty much did what we were expecting today. We probably are due for another rest day, but you never know. So tomorrow we'll assess the gap, and we'll see if there's any news overnight. The news has been really slow this week. I don't think there's been one upgrade for the past 3 days, and the price target increase is not the same thing as an upgrade. I don't think there's been one upgrade for the past 3 days. There wasn't one Christmas Eve. and there hasn't been one this week. So the overall, like the news in the morning and everything's been really slow. So probably not expecting too much, but you never know. So we'll see how they gap us. We'll see what news comes out tomorrow, and we'll reassess from there. So thanks. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.